We also, so that we can get through to everyone, try to keep your time to about 2 minutes this evening, and Vanessa, as our secretary, will be keeping track of that for you. So we'll give you a wave. So PJ, go ahead.
PJ Cartwright, 1000 Via Capri. Let me preface my comments by saying I don't have children and I don't have a dog, but I do have an interest in what's going on in the community. Thank you for your comments that you're delaying any action until next week. I've missed a couple of workshops due to family emergencies out of town, but I do have some questions answers to when reviewing the paperwork, and I want to pull up the things Eric and Jack for answering my queries over the weekend. I don't expect an answer during this comment period. If you could go cover these items in the board discussion, I would appreciate it. As to the dog park, what's the maximum dollar amount currently available and earmarked for dog park construction, since the cost seems to be the reason for the change in plan? The original design was a little over 165,000 square feet. The new design is a little under 80,000 square feet, which is a little more than 50% reduction. But I couldn't find where the maximum usage for little dogs and big dogs. I also like to know the criteria for the downsizing, besides actual limitation of cost. What was decided to be left out, like the shade structure, versus what would be put in, like 2 card readers instead of 1 that was on the original plan. It's been stated that this is like a stage 1 for the dog park, and it could be later expanded to include all of the almost 4 acres. Could you give us a cost estimate and time estimate for that? When we got the Civic Corridor land from Walt Disney World, we had certain criteria that we had to comply with as far as commencement and completion of construction, and it was allowed to be phased in. So if you could restate those, because it's been a while since they were discussed. And also, if we only use less than half of the first 4-acre parcel, will that meet the criteria set forth in that arrangement? And the next point is the materials due to prior discussion. As to the synthetic turf, I do admit this was not on my radar, except for the amount that's being discussed at the meeting. And so if we don't have enough money to proceed with the original approved plan of the dog park, then where are we getting the $250,000 for an artificial turf? Doing some research, I would invite the board members and members of the community to review the Wall Street Journal article in September 2013 regarding artificial turf versus grass, and also the Forbes September 2014 article, which included a survey by Australia, and their conclusion was that artificial turf is actually more expensive. In addition, showing that to replace or to reduce the carbon footprint of one artificial field, you would have to plant over 1,800 trees in a 10-year period. The synthetic turf industry on their own website state that on hot sunny days, the surface temperature of an artificial field is going to be considerably higher than a grass field. And I read the bids as carefully as I could, but I could not identify the substructure base, so it's very difficult for me to do any research on that because it wasn't there. And also the cost comparison of grass versus artificial turf. With fields, no inclusion for labor cost outside the initial 2 years of the warranty period. So in years 3 through 10 of the warranty, there was no labor cost included in that comparison. And the difference between the usage of a synthetic turf field at 3,000 hours a year versus less than 1,000 is really not fair. Of course, if you're going to increase the cost, it's going to show $9 and change instead of $20. I mean, that's sort of logical. So I don't really think that's a fair comparison. And if the turf wasn't installed and we used grasses instead, saving about 80% of that $250,000, would that monies be saved, used for other master use amenities in the community, or spent on the dog park?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Hi, hello. I'm Daisy Warner. I live at 412 Greenbrier, just in front of Long Meadow Park. And we are having some issues in the park with the sand over there. I have 2 kids, Justin and Nita, they play there all the time. And you're having dog poop and cat poop there. And so the dogs is like without a leash. They are without a leash, so they go there and then they leave. And I'm really concerned that they can get sick. So I was thinking about if you could replace that sand, because this is not sanitary. That's it.
Perfect, thank you. To go ahead and address the sand comment now, we actually have on the agenda for next meeting, it's a topic of discussion for replacement of that, which we communicated at the last board meeting as well. I know that we've communicated directly with a couple of residents of that. We have bids out from approved vendors in order to be able to replace that area, as well as I know that with the current maintenance concerns with fecal matter being in the area, our maintenance team tries to respond as quickly as possible in order to be able to clean and sanitize the area, understanding that we're trying to look for more of a long-term solution rather than a short-term solution.
Okay, I heard that in North Village you are having a problem as well, but I cannot talk about it because I don't live close by.
Sure.
So, but that's it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Rick Nelson. I live at 500 Marisol Circle in Marisol. I just wanted to touch on the dog park issue and probably pretty briefly, but looking at the past bid versus the current bid, it struck me that it appears as though the cost has been reduced by about $28,000 or something like that, yet the size is going to be less than a half, which seems a little bit inconsistent. And just looking, Phil and I were just looking at some of the numbers versus the 2 bids, and it looks as though in terms of fencing alone, that even if you add chain link fence in at approximately $50 a foot, that there's still something like a $55,000 savings in just fence alone versus the overall cost reduction of something like $28,000.
Rick,
So,
can I just interrupt you?
sure.
The original bid was like $831,000. So it's a $400,000 difference between the 2 bids.
Can I interrupt you? About $393,000 that came from the site work, not the dog park.
Yeah, I'm looking
That's where they took it all.
at what was in your agenda tonight versus what came out on August the 17th, looking at the 2 prices. So I think I may have something wrong, but that's how it appears to me anyway. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that if the board is going to really go through with this, and that was the initial plan, I think, for tonight, somebody really needs to do some number crunching to see what this new proposal really means versus the old proposal. And then the second thing I wanted to mention, and it has nothing to do with any of the agenda items tonight, but it's something that's been on my mind for about 7 months now. And 7 months ago at a CROA meeting, I believe that it was Amy Westwood, who is your, I guess is a consultant that CROA has working with you, has been working on a Comcast contract. And back in February, which was the last meeting that I was at when Comcast came up, she said, we're in the contract stage. And 7 months later, it appears that we're absolutely nowhere with Comcast. And I guess as a suggestion, given that we have a brand new fiber network that was put in by Smart City, I think it's time to sit down with the people at Smart City and say, hey, what alternatives can a fiber network bring to Celebration? And I think that might be something that would be eye-opening for the public. And I would suggest maybe that might be an action item to maybe add to your agenda for next month or whenever the next meeting is. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Kelly Atkatz. I live at 231 Golden Range Drive, and I do live across from North Village Park, and am there nearly daily with my toddler. And I also am finding feces in the sand, and I do appreciate the cover on the one for the larger one, but I just have to say, with a 3-year-old running around trying to do the 8 latches, it's just not very realistic, so I just wanted you to take that into consideration, where I think the removal of the sand altogether would be much more sanitary, because every time we go, there's either feces or green mold growing in it, and I do appreciate what the people are trying to do to keep it clean. I just think it's too much to keep up with on a daily basis with the humidity and the rain and the animals that are in our environment.
Sure, completely agree. That's why the cover was actually not looked at as a long-term solution. It was looked at as a short-term solution.
Okay, but I do appreciate that you tried something.
You tried something.
Yes, I do appreciate that. It's just trying to watch it and make sure my child doesn't run away. It's not very realistic, but I do appreciate the step trying to make it more sanitary for my child and the rest of the kids in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
My name is Lori Carroll. I live at 231 Golden Rain Drive. I'm also here in support of the removal of the sandboxes. Like the other moms have said, I've found fecal matter on many occasions at the park with my 2 young children. I appreciate, like as Kelly said, about the North Village short-term solution. However, Long Meadow, I don't even go to that playground anymore. It's unfortunate, my kids love it, but it's unsanitary and it's not safe. I don't want my children to get sick or any other children in our community. So I appreciate your attention to this matter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just remember, the grass gets the same thing in it. The grass is dirty too, so don't let the kids run on the grass.
Also be dirty. The challenge with the sandbox is that it's very, very attractive to animals. They come in there, they bury their poo-poo in the sand, so you may not see it initially. It's really unrealistic to do that type of daily maintenance. I mean, we struggle with daily maintenance issues in general. We forget to unlock the playgrounds, we forget to open the pools. Things that require somebody doing something on a daily basis is just not the expertise we have here in this town. If we're going to have children's amenities, they need to be things that, if maintenance forgets to come around, which they so often do, then it's still safe. Sandboxes are especially problematic, of course, because the feces doesn't drain out. It's not like beach sand. I did a lot of research on this, and there doesn't seem to be a good sand-based solution. What we really need to do is find some additional playground equipment to replace the sandboxes.
So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Dejean and I live at 1021 Bankster Street. I have a message from Holly Terry on my phone. I don't know if it's appropriate to play it or not. Is it?
A voice message?
Yeah, like a video that from another resident. Yeah, it's very quick.
Is it longer than 3 minutes?
It's under
3 minutes?
It's probably 1 minute.
And where's it from?
And I'm Holly Terry and she lives at 717 Teal.
717.
Yeah. I'm gonna put the volume up.
Hi, my name is Holly Cherry, and I just
Actually, hold
wanted
the microphone,
to send a
please.
video in case I could not be there this afternoon about the sandboxes at the park. My daughter, Lucy Terry, was 20 months old when she contracted a rare form, and I'm probably killing the name of this, of Variolacirus proclinicis. It is a rare form of roundworm that results in contact with raccoon fecal matter. When I went to one of 2 pediatric dermatologists in the state of Florida, she said it is extremely rare and is almost always linked to sandboxes and unprotected sandboxes. Since the only sand that my daughter had played with in her lifetime was the sand at the Long Meadow Park. We went back and looked and we had found fecal matter in the sand, whether it was cat or raccoon. I can't confirm, I'm not a specialist in that area. But she was treated with some very serious medicine for a small child to have to put on her skin, and I had to wear gloves to administer it. Again, I realized when I contacted the 851 building back then that this is a random thing that could have affected anyone. I'm not angry, but I do think if it's something that can be prevented, we should do everything we can to prevent it, because having to put on gloves, to put medicine medicine on my less than 2-year-old daughter's skin, plus the antibiotics she had to take, is unacceptable when we as a community could prevent it. Thank you.
It was Holly. And then I just had a little presentation to hand out to you guys. I think I just have 5 copies, so maybe share, because I need all the details. I just wanted to again thank Steve and the maintenance team for the awesome project in the North Village sandboxes. And just like the other moms said, I would love to have a permanent solution on that. And then for the Long Meadow playground, every morning I drop off my little boy Gabriel to the K-8 because he goes to kindergarten. And literally every morning there is feces in the sand. So I recorded everything in the app, and I have found 14 different feces over the past 20 days. So if you elaborate that, over a year, that would be 255 feces. So I feel that it's a little bit of a situation there. You have all the pictures of all the issues that there has been. There's also a slide about the various animal paw prints that have been found there, and there's raccoon, cats, small dogs, and large dogs. And there's also other types of issues in the sand that have been mentioned before, like the mold, but also ant piles, wasp nests that have been found in North Village. This morning I saw a earwig insect nest in Long Meadow. I found lungworms in Long Meadow, and of course, plastic bags and Band-Aids. If you want to see, I have the samples of the feces of this morning, and when I dug into... Right, you don't want to see it. But just so you know, when I dug up to see that feces, a piece of plastic wrapping for a mozzarella stick. So I know that Steve's team has been raking the sand, but I don't think it's really doing the job. And then there's a slide on slide 17 that shows that parks that have sand surfacing usually need to be completely enclosed, which I don't think it's possible to do that in Long Meadow. And I think that Debbie last time mentioned a good question, about why do cats go in the sand and not, on the artificial turf or any others.
I asked about raccoons.
Oh, raccoons?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know why cats go in the sand.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, sure. And I've added all the situations that one can have from, playing in the sand that is contaminated with parasites. And I have a feeling that maybe it has not been taken as seriously as it should be, but really, kids can get very sick from playing in sand that has that kind of amount of feces in it. And lastly, I just want to mention that, as you probably know, it is a liability issue for the board. Now that, so many parents have mentioned, the situation, if another child gets sick, we will know where it comes from. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you to Steve for doing all the research with the vendors and doing the daily maintenance at Long Meadow. Thank you. Sure.
Are there any other homeowner comments? Good evening.
Hi, Doreen Hoyer, 515 Marisol Circle. PJ and I are on the Parks and Rec committee, so everything she said, I pretty much agree with. She did a very thorough job, so I'm not going to take time and repeat all of that, but I do think it's important that everybody knows, and I know there's a little stir going on about the dog park. And what I don't want us is to slow down the process. I think it's important because of the fact that I'm not sure that everybody understands that with the road going in and the CDD, with what they're putting in, it's going to be beneficial to the dog park and the costs if this continues to be streamlined. Now, with that said, I think that maybe with a little more clarification on numbers, I think that will help settle things down a bit as far as downsizing the full size to the smaller, which is fine with what Eric had mentioned too, I think, to PJ is that could possibly be a potential site in the future. Or if just to keep the process moving, which I think is really the number one and most important thing, is to even do the minimal amount that we can as far as the land clearing and the fencing, and then we'll work it all later if need be. And again, fundraising, I'm still not opposed to that. I know some are, but I still think that we could do that or come up with a plan. But I just want to make sure that we keep it moving forward, but yet make it, the best it can be, but it doesn't have to be the best that it can be right away. We can work it forward in phases, perhaps. I also want to address the sand and the dog and the other parks. Being on the Parks and Rec Committee for 12 years, back when we were looking at all the parks, one of the years the criteria was that we were to go to each and every park and then pick out what are the most important things that need to be done immediately, and a lot of that was damage, rust, broken steps, so on. And then the next thing was how to enhance it, how to add to it to make it more fun for the children and everything. And it's specifically in North Village, so they're kind of getting pounded on. But the fact of the matter is that our committee went and stood at every park in the morning, after school, and in the evenings, and we had a survey, and we surveyed residents that go to each and every one of those parks, all the parks, and East Village, North Village, and so on and so forth. And the number one thing was we were going to put the artificial turf, and we're going to put, there was sand bees boring into the sand, so we wanted to put the artificial turf in there. And we had residents that came and stopped us and said, please, it was the residents who said, please, we beg of you, do not cover everything. Our children like to play in the sand. And that is why it was not fully covered, because residents requested the sandboxes. And then we said, okay, well, we'll put them on the one side, and the smaller, and they said, no, I want it in both, because if my older children are playing, I want something for my younger children to do. So it was the residents who actually made that decision, and we followed what their recommendation was, is to put the artificial turf, but leave sandboxes. So that's why that happened. But with what you said, I understand it should be taken into consideration. And there are other ways of sandbox. If residents want sand in an area, you can make that happen. That will be in a safe environment, or you can eliminate it. And I think you've stated your case, but I just wanted you to know how that all started. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Dory.
Thanks.
Are there any other homeowner comments? All right. I will verify that the meeting was properly noticed.
Yes, it was.
All right, we have more than a quorum. We'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 6:27 p.m. Do I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consensus. This is working. Table action on it this evening until the board meeting next week. I'll go ahead and look back in if the board allows to kind of address some of PJ's questions. So I'll try to do the best I can with this, and Steve and Susan jump in here, and obviously everyone else here correct me when I go astray.
Just a question, it's not reserve expense.
No, it's a capital improvement.
It's described as the working capital reserve expense.
Oh, okay.
I think that's
It
what
is the
it's
working
listed on the
capital
sheet.
expense for the.
Yeah. So as far as the maximum dollar amount that's currently available, as well as earmarked for the dog park construction, I think the simple answer is there isn't one. It kind of depends on the entire master recreation plan. So Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a hard dollar figure that's currently either approved or budgeted for it beyond what we had already approved for the design phase, correct?
Correct. As we've gone through the Recreation Master Plan Task Force, and we've talked about the size and the footprint of the dog park, the numbers changed based on the prioritization in that schedule. So I think that that's really where we're at right now. It's just prioritization of the items from the original master plan. And then after we've identified all the different types of the parks and we've looked at level of service from where all the parks are located, those are the items that have kind of floated to the top from the master planning process.
Sure. So I guess the transparent answer to the question would be we have up to the current amount that's within the capital reserve or for the fund there. If we wanted to spend the entire amount, we could. However, we're trying to, I guess, make sure that we do some other things as part of the master recreation plan in phases. Is that correct? Okay. The design being reduced. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We don't have a cost for it.
You said, if we wanted to spend it all in the dog.
What's the reserve balance? What's the reserve balance is what you're asking, right?
It's 1 point.
Almost 1.2.
So we have almost $1.2 million that we could spend it on the dog park if we want. So that would be the full amount.
And PJ, we accumulated that 40,000 to 45,000 per month towards that fund.
And part of that is the 381,000 donated for Phil.
Right, from Disney. Excuse me, the Celebration Company.
That's added in there.
The design has been reduced from 165,000 square feet to a little bit under 80,000. So I know you wanted to know kind of what the utilization ratio between for the maximum and little dog. Do we have, Steve, I know there was a formula figured out for how many dogs per side would be able to do that?
There was, and I don't have it with me, but I believe that side of the park was around 40 dogs altogether that could utilize that.
The
side of
small.
split. Well, we've utilized the small area now for the entire park, so it's around 40 total within those two parks.
Gotcha. So it's 40 total dogs. I can't tell you the small and large dog number, but I think that's
We're planning with like 9 dogs on the big side. And if you're using just the big side, why is it only 40 dogs?
Where's the small dog side?
Right, we're using the small side because there was more shade.
everything that are already there. Steve, if we could, since we're not taking action on it tonight, if we could go back to Little John and just make sure that they recalculate that ratio for us, just so that we can have a evaluation on the number of dogs, but per size, so both small and large. If that's okay with everyone. Yeah.
I'm not comfortable having a park reduced from 165,000 square feet to 80,000 square feet with only 10% reduction in construction cost. So I would either like to see someone from CROA or Parks and Rec possibly sit down with Steve or someone from this and go through it. I just think when you reduce something by over 50% and you're only spending, the cost is only 10% reduced, that it's not a good value. It's not a good value for our residents, it's not a good value for what we've waited 18 years for. And instead of rushing it through, I'd rather take some time and do it right and get a good value for our money. It's basically just for visual, for people that may not have the building in front of it or the board packet to the old dog park. Looking for this.
The original one?
This was the old dog park, and for 10% less, it's hard to see, sorry, this is the new dog park. So just from a financial standpoint, I think there's some work that needs to be done on that. The only thing I see that we really need to do, I talked with the architect that's working on the CDB building, we do have to decide where the sidewalk's being put in. Otherwise, there will be a sidewalk put in, and we will have to pay to rip it out. So in order to save about $20,000 on that cost, there's a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I believe Steve's going to try to attend, or someone from our board, to see if we can get the plans adjusted for that. Because right now, the sidewalk on these plans show where the light poles need to be. And we can't have a sidewalk where light poles need to be. So there's just a couple things with the plan. It also shows parking, and there's gas lines here, so parking can't go there. So I think if we're going to do this and get an accurate bid, we really need to look at least the site plan that exists and see where gas lines are and where sidewalks need to go and where the road is, rather than have them draw it, redraw it. Again, just want to get the best value that we can.
Sure. I know one of the reasons why we're kind of sitting here and one of the reasons why we have the meeting tonight is, as everyone knows, the CDD is building a facility on the Civic Corridor. They are moving forward very quickly with their construction, as fast as they can. So we're kind of a little bit behind the ball on trying to get our park in. We were able to take advantage of some of the utility stub-outs when they were putting in. We actually did realize the cost savings of that when they were doing with the CDD. However, I know a lot of people are asking why we're trying to move quickly on this. This is a perfect example of why. Because we are kind of sitting here now because in order for the CDD, in order to be able to have their building complete and in use, they need to have the sidewalk and road completed in order to be able to do that. The catch is that the way that our dog park fits in that area with parking, we have to rip out the sidewalk. So as Debbie mentioned, we're trying to look at different options in order to be able to fit space in there, but we're kind of getting down to the wire on being able to do that. So,
well, and just to clarify, we know that the building's been put in, and we have had an opportunity to figure out where the sidewalk needs to go, and they're being gracious and allowing us to help redo the plans because we're now late and bring that to the table. But I thank them for giving us that opportunity so that we don't have to put anything out.
And we did submit the CAD drawings to them weeks ago, and it was part of the discussion on how we even asked, is there any way we would be able to pay the difference between what the CDD has to pay for permitting to get it. CDD board members wanted to make sure that it didn't interfere with the time frame for that road going in. So I think that's kind of what the catch-up is.
Sure.
Because the road needs the sidewalk to be able to close out. So if this is going to cause it to take any longer, the road's going to be put in and we're going to have to
the road,
remove
as
the
far as the
sidewalk.
sidewalk. Who did you submit the drawings to?
Mark Minskintunis. He's been the person that I've been working with.
Okay, but did Mark contact the architect on the CDD?
And David Arnco, and I believe David is the gentleman's name, has been included in the conversation also. So we've been...
Because the architect, I spoke to the architect tonight, he was willing to do this, and the CDD board was willing to work with us. So.
Well, and I copied Mark, and I actually got another email from him this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'll take a look at what he said. One of the two of us will be there. We have another meeting with the CDD member here tomorrow morning at 9:30, so one of the two of us will be there. And then to address your question on the difference in estimates, some of these costs are directly correlated in the reduction in size for the dog park. So when you look at project supervision, the smaller the size of the park and the smaller the cost of the park, those go down with it. So you're looking at about $71,000 in just the building, and from the building perspective of it, you're looking at, and site work alone, $206,000 decrease. That's a significant decrease in concrete, stone and gravel, new asphalt for parking. So there are quite a few, and then the engineer actually looked at it again, and based on the smaller dog park and the 1 acre of Bahia turf, they felt that they didn't need as much fill as originally estimated for that. The equipment does go down about half based on the size of the park also. So there are some additions that were added in there too, but they're minor changes.
Well, I just saw that $393,000 came out from the site work, but the actual dog park construction, on my information, I wasn't given a detailed bid, but it only went from the previous bid down to $259,000. So what I saw was the reduction was in the site work, which I believe has to be done anyway, or not?
Well, they do have to do site work. It's just the difference now. So for fencing, gates and ornamental and chain link, that goes down by $82,000. As all those prices decrease, along with that goes contingencies, contractor fees, project supervision. Those types of fees go down with it.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm saying is the site work went down $363,000, but the dog park construction only went down 10%. And when I looked at the breakout of what I had, which was on the fencing and the concrete went down from 20,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
The fencing went down from 7. A nice fence to have chain link. But again, I only saw the 10% reduction price. I guess my question is the site work. Is the rest of the site going to be done, or will that be an additional cost later?
Well, you're going to have to add the fencing later. You're going to have to change the side over later. You're going to have to add some concrete later.
The site work that was reduced by $360,000.
Well, they'll grade it all out. They'll prep it. They'll move dirt where they need to. But the dog park will only have the fencing and the Bermuda and the gravel and that kind of stuff built on that side.
I understand. I have that.
They'll still build.
It says still going to be done.
Yes,
What are they going to do for
it's grass. It's turf.
It's just a Bahia turf field.
Right.
Just an open
Okay.
field.
What was this $363,000? What are we missing there?
So when I went and compared the last estimate to the one that we just got, demo of the sidewalk was in there, which was one of the things that we're still working with CDD. Clearing and grubbing, $28,000 or $25,000 and some change that has come out. Fill dirt of $30,000 and some change has come out. Asphalt parking was reduced to grass parking at $32,000. Stone and gravel went from $33,000 to $13,000. Gutter went from $6,000 to just a little bit over $1,500. And then concrete went from $135,000 to $44,000. So there was some significant.
Was the gravel parking going to be here?
Decreases. Yes, on the original estimate, that was gravel parking. And one of the suggestions made at the last board meeting was to have that as just grass parking. And that's Bahia grass.
But you realize you can't have any parking over there because the gas line's up.
That's the first I've heard of that, though. No, I didn't know that. So that's something that I'll have to talk to them a little bit more.
Well, I just talked to the architect, so, I mean, maybe tomorrow if you guys can go.
We've gotten some conflicting answers on what we can and cannot do. I know previously one of the determinations that I had heard was that it cannot be a impervious surface. So it couldn't be an asphalt, it couldn't be a concrete or something on top of it, but it could be a grass or gravel or something like that. So I think that's something that we can go back and ask them just to confirm.
Right. So the design is laid out then to where you still have the center structure here. It could be turned into an entrance later if you decide to build a dog park on the other side. And then everything for the dog park will just be built on this side of the dog park. And then this will be an open field that could later be transferred into a park.
Okay. And I guess my last question, I had another couple questions from some residents that called, is why we only received one bid, and the bids I know came in before we came on the board, but do you know where we just received the one bid?
Sure. I submitted bid packets with the specs to 6 different companies. One of the companies replied back that they didn't feel like they could compete with pricing. And then McCree and Little John combined their bids together, and they were the only bid that we received.
Okay. Thank you.
Just as a side note, I feel like as a board, we're kind of being pushed into a not an easy decision, only because we're getting pressures from CDD to try and get things done. We're getting pressure from residents to get things done, and I don't know. I feel like we're in a position now where we're settling for them, and I think they know that, and I feel like we're getting screwed. Just to be blunt, I'm sorry. I feel like they recognize the fact that we need to get this done, and I'm one that's feeling like that.
Are you talking about from the contractor?
From the contractor, I feel like we're giving a lot away, and we're not getting the discount that I was expecting.
Well, the solution would be to get multiple bids.
But he just said he couldn't find any more. When was the last time we put out for more bids? And even more than that, now if we put out for more bids, how much further are we? Yeah, I mean, now we're even more now we're playing catch up. And I guess, I don't know where we went wrong, but I feel like we did.
We definitely went wrong, yeah. I feel like we could get more bids if we could get another bid within a week or a month. I'd rather do that than waste.
So are we willing to wait that?
I mean, what's a good wait 18 years? Why get a dog park that's half the size for 10,000, 10% less?
So I'll be the voice of difference here. Before I moved here, I was hearing about a dog park. Before I was on the board, before I was on the communications committee, before I was on anything, I was hearing about the dog park. The other catch that we have is something that PJ mentioned that we'll address as well. There was a requirement with the civic corridor land that was given to us by a celebration company that we had to do something with it within a certain period of time. Quite honestly, I think, if I remember correctly, we had to commence construction within a year of and I think we're 2 years behind it, right, PJ? Because we got it.
It didn't come.
It didn't convey. That's right. It didn't convey. So we're kind of put in a situation now where we need to do something with it. And I think that we negotiated too a little bit with the celebration company. When they gave us the land, they were also expecting us to do the full build out of the entire property. And we flat out told them, we don't have the money to do that. This was even before we had the capital improvement fund. We just didn't have. So some of it is now we're being backed into what can we do now so that it's a phased approach. So moving forward that we can do something. When we started this, and I don't know if I ever said it here or on camera or anything, but we can't build a dog park half-assed. It just can't be done. It's not going to be acceptable for celebration. It's not acceptable to me as a board member. I don't think anyone wants that. I think the catch that we run into is that we put the plan together when we went into the design phase of everything on the dog park that Celebration wants. The dog park that Celebration wants is $800-something thousand and change. We could do that, as PJ pointed out. Go ahead.
Can we separate the site work from the dog park though? Because that's a lot of it. It's not even, this has to be done no matter what we put there.
Correct.
So I mean, everyone's saying like, oh my gosh, $800,000. Can we just separate those two out?
Sure, so what do you want me to say?
How much the site work is? 400 or something, how much the dog park?
On that bid,
I mean, it's not $800,000 park, it's a
$153,000.
site work.
So it's a $473,000 dog park.
No, that's a site work, so it would be that much that, so it would be a $350,000 park, whatever, to 400. So it's not 800.
Okay, it's not 800. We're talking about $300,000. Still more. Bottom line is that we got to do something. As some people that know me now, I am beyond frustrated with the corner and the situation that we've been put in. We're essentially being held to a timeline of construction that we don't control, as well as we're trying our best to, the reason why we're sitting here today is because we went through a period where we got multiple different designs from the designer in order to be able to present it to residents so that we could get feedback to make sure that we don't screw this up, so that we present people from what they want. We didn't want it to just be, oh, well, that's what the CROA board wanted to present. We wanted to make sure that it was the residents' dog park. So we made the conscious decision at that time in order to delay construction until now, so that we can try to get some feedback and try to understand it. So we can't wait for losing a little bit, and I appreciate everyone's patience with that. I do think that there are some questions that we do need to have answered from McCree and Little John. But I think that hopefully between now and next week, when we want to take action on this, we'll be able to have some of those answers. I mean, Steve, do you think that we'll be able to get a response back from them in that time?
Well, the questions I have is the ratio of care for dogs and on the small and the large side. And then what are the issues with gas line parking there, which I hadn't heard of any issues with parking along that side before. So that's the two questions that I have for
And
that.
I think the other question that Vanessa had as well, correct me if I'm wrong, is understanding what the total cost reduction is from I know that we're looking at the numbers. We need kind of more of a percentage breakdown, understanding where we're getting and realizing the cost savings. Math is not my strong suit. When I look at this, I see fuzzy math, that we moved some stuff around. I'll admit I do that in my own company, that I will move things around sometimes. If you're being a pain in the ass, guess what? We're going to move something else around and you're going to realize to charge somewhere else. I want to make sure that they're not doing what I would do. So let's just make sure that we're understanding where some of these percentages are.
Dave brought up a point, technically, by starting the road, we've actually started building.
Yeah, I wondered if that was
Exactly.
considered.
$350,000.
And we did pay for that.
Exactly.
Assessment.
So basically, we've already met the criteria.
Well, and are we sure it's a year? That doesn't, I thought it was 18. I didn't think it was that. At the time, it didn't seem like it was that.
It seemed to me that was, if I recall, it was 18 months for construction of each phase, but all 3 phases had to be done within like 12 years.
Right.
There was a
They'll be okay.
But we couldn't phase it.
They would
We
rather
had to
us to
start
Somewhere.
commencement of a approved plan.
Sure.
Well, they've already looked at the initial plan. I sent it to Jim Parker, and he asked some questions. I sent them back to McCree.
Jim Parker's from the Celebration Company, for anyone that isn't.
Celebration Company.
So did they give
And
it?
I'm pretty confident that the Celebration Company
Good question.
will do it well.
What's the question?
They can have the wasteland back?
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah, they can have the wasteland. Within that time, I know there had been discussion that we would lose the $300,000 that they gave us for fill, that they would take that.
Let me take a look at the.
I think we're talking about the time period.
I think we're talking about things that really aren't relevant, because the reality is we need to get this done. So I don't know that we need to call anybody. I think we just need to make things happen.
Whatever. I mean, we've already started construction. I think they've
I think
done
we're
it
fine.
well.
I think we're fine. To Dave's point, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
I think we just need to not worry about all of those types of details that really aren't an issue, and figure out, do we want to go with a large, when we're talking about that breakdown, do we want to go larger, understanding that we have to fill that anyway, or do we want to just cut back? And so those are the type of details I think that as a board we need to be discussing, rather than worrying about whether or not we're in violation.
I understand. Our last meeting, I said very clearly, if we cut the size of the dog park, are we cutting the cost of the dog park or just the site work? And everyone on the board said, oh no, it'll come down on the dog park. The dog park went down in half. The cost only went down in 10%. We still have to do the 400 and, what's the figure? The original
431,701
in dog and site work still has to be done, no matter what size the dog park is. So we're not looking at an $800,000 dog park. We're looking at site work that has to be done, regardless of the size of the dog park. And we're looking at a dog park now that we're getting that's less than half the size for $10,000 saving.
I mean, it's
which
still
I
like
can't believe.
80,000 square foot dog park.
Correct.
So it's basically, I mean, a Walmart is 100,000 square feet.
Right.
So it's basically just a little less than a Walmart store. That's a lot of area for dogs. I mean, I think we need to know the capacity number.
Yeah, but I think
80,000 square feet is a big dog park.
But back to my point is, if it's still big enough size, I mean, why is the proportion of cost not?
Sure.
Why is the relationship, the ratio, it seems to be a little, back to your point, fuzzy math.
Yes. Well, back to the point that I'm going to give my price no matter how you build it. I'm going to charge you what I plan on charging you, because I've already made my budget and I want my Christmas party and my trip.
So, Steve, if you could go back to, if both you and Susan could go back to McCree and Little John and just ask for some of, I think you've got a good picture of our questions here.
But I would really like to have the answer so we can do something about it next
Absolutely.
week. I don't want to have this conversation again at the next workshop and then again at the next board meeting. I think we've kind of beat this to
Steve, do you
the
think
pole.
this is something that he could answer?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Todd and Susan, and we'll get in touch with them and see if there's any other explanation they can
Do you
define for the
understand our
breakdown.
concerns?
Well, I mean, I've taken a look at the direct comparison between the cost difference, and the site work is one itemized line on here from $336,000 to $110,000 is the reduction in that altogether. And then, on here, they try and compile it together. On the breakdowns, it has a complete breakdown of what everything costs.
Right.
So I have a side-by-side comparison of what
That's
is
what
going on.
you got that. I got that on the first bid. I did not get that on the second bid.
Okay.
So if I would it be possible to have PJ or Dory from Parks and Rec and a board member?
Sure.
With the call?
We can have anybody who'd like to be part of it. I mean,
I would like to be part of it.
Sure.
Could you guys be available, PJ?
I thought that this was included in what I emailed you guys.
It was not included.
Because I know that they had this in the breakdown.
So that's why I sent you the note saying I'm lost.
Yeah, when we talked today, I did this and I went ahead and emailed this to you guys this afternoon just so you could see.
I can't make an expenditure of $400,000 or $500,000 or any amount without having a detailed breakdown. I can't do it. It's not right for the community.
Okay, so I think we've talked about we need some more budgetary figures as well as some percentages. To move forward with some of the other questions, as far as an estimate and the expansion of what a second phase would be, no idea. As far as that, I think once again it's how it fits into the complete master recreation task force plan. In case anyone else disagrees with me, we wanted to delay, please list the demonstrable adversaries which may result in postponing decision of its 14 days. Oh, so we're gonna, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about turf when we talk about turf. Is that okay? Cool.
But last question, I know the criteria. I noticed specifically the lack of a shade structure.
Right.
I know there are a few trees on that parcel as compared to all general, but as I said, I don't know if y'all are. But what I've heard from people in the community going out there for an extended period of time in Florida without a shade structure is not realistic.
Sure. So for the folks at home, PJ commented from the audience on the concern in regards to shade, and that there's an elimination of artificial shade structure, and that there are some existing trees located in the proposed dog park as far as the first phase that we're looking at now. The question is as far as if we have sufficient shade in order for that area. I know shade structures were one of the things that were removed, but there was a whole bunch of other, I don't want to say nice to haves, but there was, we had an enhanced dog washing station. We had, tables and chairs, different pergolas, different things like that. And in order to remove I'll say $250,000 dog park. Are we okay with that number? I know, whatever. The more expensive dog park, that's a good one. The more expensive dog park is what we have today. We tried to remove some of those nice to haves because it's a lot easier for us maybe as we were looking to maybe upgrade turf in other locations, in some other parks. We could upgrade and add a pergola or a shade structure or a table or a gravel area within the dog park itself as we kind of move forward with building up capital expenditures. I don't know if anyone else has any. Sure, yeah. Diane, I'm sorry. Can you come up here just so that I don't have to? My memory's shot at this hour. So.
I'm Diane Finney, 1230 Right Circle, and I've had children. They've grown up. I understand the business about the sand. It's unfortunate. I now have another large dog. I just want to say about the dog park. I heard these figures, and I was really flabbergasted at the cost. I've just spent some time up north at a very nice dog park, very simple, just a simple dog park. And honestly, I've seen people go to these dog parks and they spend maybe no more than 10 or 15 minutes. Shade structures are unnecessary, plant a few trees. A water fountain would be wonderful, just so that they could drink. And of course, those...
Those are current bid.
Yeah. And then a few of those
And for dogs.
plastic bag disposal things, you know. I'm amazed at, whatever this beautiful dog park plan is, but I think it's gotten a little out of hand, and I strongly encourage you get out there and rebid it if possible. Get some competitive bids out there. Maybe call it the Kissimmee Dog Park and not Celebration. That might help with the price. And, also I think larger is better. Why scale it back if there's only a 10% reduction? I say go for the whole thing. And it is nice that you're working with CDD on trying to reduce some costs and doing some of the same construction at the same time. But thanks for the work you do. But I don't think it has to be that deluxe for people who've been waiting years and years for a dog park. They'd enjoy just some fenced-in area that their dogs could run free, stretch their legs, not run into the street or run away, and people would be happy.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments in regards to the dog park?
Leonard 10 emailed something. Do you want to read it?
You can read it since he emailed you.
Sorry, I'm doing something recording. Leonard 10 is in Boston. He sent a comment he asked me to read. Currently, I'm in Boston. I think proceeding to vote in the dog park this evening is a mistake. Questions I have. Of the park. Is the park being built where it would be very simple to add onto? What will be the cost to the additions to make the park as large as initially drawn? Are the plans such that they can be expanded to replicate the initial approved plans? The Parks and Recreation Committee approved the very first larger plan out of the options presented. Did the Recreation Committee have any input in this plan? Is there a reason, he went up to the soccer field next, is there a reason the soccer field needs the artificial turf added to it immediately so as not to interrupt the soccer season? I have no objection to that. As always, I thank the board for their hard work. Leonard Tell.
All right, I think we answered most of Leonard's questions in there.
Casey's watching from Boston.
Exactly.
My third viewer.
Unless you're the one of the three people that I saw that are watching right now.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments in regards to the dog park?
Well, you want one comment?
Sure, Dave.
One thing you could do, if you don't want to use this McCree guy, subcontract it out. You'll cut the cost in half. Subcontract it out. Get a fence guy in there, get a landscaper in there to actually level off the ground.
I think that's definitely an option. You can just go and clear the land and put a fence up, but you're going to have a typical dog park with just a fence. I mean, when going into this, we talked about building a celebration dog park. So I'll mirror a little bit what Eric was saying. That's how it got.
A dog park's a dog park. It's a place for them to run. As long as they have water, there's a certain amount of shade there. The grass is there, the fence is there. You can still make it look nice. You don't have to get all crazy with it. But I'd subcontract it out, personally. And I'd get, different people that handle different parts of the job. And you're going to cut it in half and tell
How
them.
realistic would something like that be, Steve?
I'd have to do some work to get it out there and see if we can get some quotes on it.
Most of the parts that we built up north was all subcontracted out. There was nothing, no big company came in and put anything in. It was all subcontracted out.
I mean, it's just it takes away all the design. Much different in cost.
No, I mean,
If I take this design and I put it out in the street right now for a builder, I don't think it's going to be that much different.
You might see it might come a little bit different.
Can we sub out the fence? Because I got a really much better price on that.
I mean, come on, there's fence guys out there who do a hell of a lot cheaper than this guy can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, he's using somebody he knows. Right? And that's the way business is done.
There's two people that are trying to get money on this.
I'm cutting out the middleman. We handle the project ourselves. We're the site managers. Here, you put the fence in, you put landscaping, you do this, you do that, period. End of story, it's done.
I mean, as of right now, we've wasted all this time. We've got a sidewalk going in we need to rip out because I don't even think they looked at the specs. I did. I actually saw the land and where the gas lines are and where the things are popping out. I don't think they looked at that, or they wouldn't put parking on top of gas lines. Anyway, I think that's a thought.
I just want the gas
We can
line.
definitely look at that option.
Oh, here we have it. Oh my goodness, it's Mr. Joseph.
Richard Joseph, 1203 Green Square.
Thank you.
I've been working on this 5 years or whatever it's been. And I'm working with Osceola County on parks, okay? I really feel you might want to go and check with Terry Johnson and see what they have done. How did they work it? And I'm sure they did similar to what Dave said and price it out, because they're a beautiful park. May not be a Cadillac, but it's a beautiful park. It has the water, has a playground for kids and everything included. And take a look at that. And of course, one of their big issues, because I had them over here looking at that land, is their concern with that gas line. And you need to get approval to even walk on it, let alone build anything on it, you know. So, the park they put in, the closest to us here is over by Give the Kids a Room. And that's
not the one on the water, though, right? That's just...
correct. That's strictly a dog park with a little playground for the kids.
Right. And that's right. That's a fence in a square area.
And 2 fences.
Terry
small
just
and big.
retired. I was at the county meeting last week, but I'm sure he would help us, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
2 years.
is he retired now?
He just retired. I was at the last meeting. They gave him a big thing. But I'm sure he'd help us. I mean, he's...
Well, I can, yeah, that or I can chase down who's his replacement or who's working that, because they just invited me to their other one. They just put up you're looking at it, and it's the right thing to do. You got to look at the prices, okay? And
still make it beautiful,
and the grass.
stand out and save
What do you
some
want to do with the grass? Is it hay or artificial? There's pros and cons and price tags for it. Well, like I say, let's finish it.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Any other comments that folks have in regards to the dog park? Steve and Susan, you guys have appropriate direction, you feel? So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Do you feel you have appropriate direction, or do you need more clarification? I know we've jumped around a lot.
I think we have enough direction to we'll bring back a couple different options of what we can look at. And I'll try and get some clarification from McCreary.
And I think the only other thing that I would want to understand as well, to Debbie's point, is to, if we do delay this, say, month, 2 months out, just understanding what that demolition cost for the sidewalk would be, so that we don't delay the CDD vote.
I don't know how
That
realistic,
has to be done tomorrow because they're putting the sidewalk in Monday.
Yep.
I don't know how realistic this is. Do you think, because we'll, just so that we have a heads up when all of a sudden we get phone calls and $800,000 bills and things like that. We at least have a heads up as to what's coming down the pipe.
I will do my best to get numbers what I can. I don't know if I can get it all by Thursday, but I will do my best. And if you guys know anybody or anybody out there knows anybody that good fencers,
I do know
feel
people.
free to email me and we'll take a look.
Can we set a time after the meeting so in response to Vanessa and I think all of us who are ready to go with this, that Dory and PJ and you and I can possibly get together starting tomorrow?
Yes, the CDD is doing they have a contract with doing their land, so why aren't we considering using them? They're there, they've already been working on it.
They know the land?
I think they put the bid on that, so they got the lowest, most reputable person. Why would we at least do the site work and get that done, and the parking and the sidewalks? They're doing it there. Why don't we think about using it?
Just as a side note, I know that CDD was way under budget on this project. They really, they managed the heck out of it, and I think we need to.
Visit whoever we need to do the park, to get the construction, get the infrastructure, get that done, and then all you have to do is build on the top.
Can you be at the library at 9 o'clock tomorrow with me?
So, Steve, it's Armco, right?
Armco.
If we want to reach out to them, to try to understand, clearly there's someone out there. So maybe we could at least get, even if it's not a proposal, we could just understand a rough estimate for something that we want to continue on, so we can get a ballpark number. Thank you. Anyone else have anything else for the dog park? Okay, we're going to move to the turf renovation at South Village and Spring Park Field. Just a little history on this. For anyone that's been out to Spring Park, which is the field that is directly behind Heritage Hall. The field's in rough condition, and that's being polite. It's more weeds than turf. And there's been some maintenance issues that we've had out there, as well as just quite honestly overuse. As anyone knows, it rains, people go out on grass. If you play any sort of even semi-organized sport, it's going to tear things up. I know that there's also been some issues, some animal damage out there, and digging and the like. So we had gone back and we had kind of looked at trying to understand in order to properly grade this and make it so that we don't run into some of the drainage issues that we have now, we were looking at doing a leveling of the surface out there, as well as then turf on top of it. The other thing that we were looking at was whether or not it would make sense to put synthetic turf onto that area so that it could be used when it rains. And also there is a assumed reduction in maintenance costs with that as well. Steve, I don't know if you want to elaborate on the research that you guys did with that.
Sure. What we wanted to do was just take a look. We realized that the field needs to be resurfaced. We need to go in and strip it down, kill the weeds, and then we need to get it laser level. So we just wanted to bring the board the options so that you could see if you were to put a athletic type turf in there, what that cost is going to be versus putting something that type of use and hours of usage. So we just did the cost analysis and put a comparison together so that you had that available. The natural grass is much less hit up front, but over the 8-year time frame, and then even more cost recovery at 10 years, because it is a best practice to reside your field every 8 to 10 years. You do see the cost recovery for that, and it does give you significant additional hours of usage, because after rain you can get right back on again. You don't have to shut down the field for rest. And if we were to put a natural grass turf in there, we would recommend best practices for usage so that it's not overused. It's any of the things that led to that turf getting to the point that it is today, we would have to work to avoid those types of things.
And so I think one of the differences, because I know one of the increased costs that I'm seeing is for the natural turf is in maintenance. I think it's around $20,000 a year maintenance cost for that field. From what I understand today, I know a couple people have reached out to me. We're not paying that today to maintain the field. I think the difference is that we have not been maintaining the field as a athletic surface. We've been maintaining it as a field, a grass park. I was out with my son, my mother, and his great-grandmother this weekend, out looking at Heritage Hall and the park and showing it off. I could not believe the number of kids playing on that backfield. It was a non-organized sport, but there were enough frisbees flying around, footballs flying around, and soccer balls getting kicked that I looked and I said, no wonder. Just even the non-organized sports use that it sees. So I think that it's we're looking at really three decisions here, in my opinion, as a board on, do we want to maintain the field as a park, as a field, understanding that we might be in the same boat that we're in, or we might not be, in a year or two, or do we look at enhancing it either with a natural turf or a synthetic turf? There was a comment from someone, I don't know if they're still here, or PJ, if you made it, in regards to the temperature of the turf. Steve, I know that you had talked to one of the manufacturers in regards to the fill surface with it.
Yeah, there definitely is a increase in heat at the surface level, and it typically goes up to about ankle height, and then you start seeing a drastic reduction after that. But there is some new filling, and I just saw it at the expo hall, under heat lamps that keeps the temperature about 40 degrees cooler.
40 degrees. So the question in regards to how we fund this, and so Susan, I'm going to put you on the spot for this, since I know you did. We do have the ability to use reserves for enhancement in this, versus using something out of the capital improvement fund, correct?
That's correct. You can use your unrestricted reserves, and for y'all, you have your contingency reserves, and you have a contingency reserve and a surplus reserve. And those are not earmarked for anything in particular other than capital improvements. So you can use those reserves in order to put in the turf or to put in synthetic turf. You also are in a good position financially on the operating side of things. So you do have enough money to pay for it out of one or the other, or a combination of both.
Does that kind of answer your question? Kind of. I think the question that you really had, though, was why are we arguing over $250,000 for the grass, and then we're looking at spending a whole bunch more money for the dog park?
Less money. When we talk about money, excuse me.
PJ, would you get up here, because I'm sure people would like to hear.
I'm so sorry.
I have a question that was passed last year as far as new owners and their assessment, one-time assessment, that was to go into a fund for master use amenities.
That's the 1 point some odd.
Is that the 1.2 that you're speaking of?
Yes.
Or is that a...
No.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That is an additional fund.
That is an...
Correct, Jack? 45, we're adding about 45,000 a month to that?
To that fund.
Yes. No.
I think, to clarify, the difference between the contingency fund that she just talked about and the working capital fund, they are two different funds.
Right.
The contingency and working capital.
But what she's referring to is the one that's the 1.2 million, correct?
No. That she's referring to, yes.
Okay.
The wrong sheet.
Where's the money that was generated from the one-time assessment that was the subject of an amendment?
That's the 1.2 million.
And that's in working capital.
Yes.
I call it capital improvement.
Okay, capital improvements. I'm looking to Jack because he was the one that... So that fund is currently 1.2. That fund was created with monies from the specific assessment that was the subject of an amendment passed by the residents of this community.
Yes.
And that fund currently has 1.2, we're adding about 45,000 a month, and that's the fund that the Master Task Force wishes to utilize to improve all of the amenities in the community, including the civic corridor. Am I correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
PJ, but I got to say one thing. The capital improvement fund isn't all made up of funds that came from that assessment, because some of it is the 380 some odd $1,000 from Disney. Also recreational fees from the
Department of Rec fees going to the fund.
so there's like 200,000 from that. I think it's about 700,000 or 800,000 is what we've got from the capital improvement fund so far. I mean, from the assessment.
Specifically from the assessment, what is that amount?
I'm guessing right now, I have to ask Steve.
What, it was like 800 something?
It's on the financials, and it
I
has.
think it's like 800 something, isn't it?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I don't want to throw out the wrong number, but it's close.
We'll throw out the wrong one.
800 something.
It's on the financial report, though.
It's sizable.
Yeah.
And remember, that does include the $381,000.
Right, that's why I said 800, 'cause,
Sure.
yeah, without the,
So are we going back to the turf versus the grass?
Sure. I was going through PJ's questions.
are you done with PJ's questions?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Go ahead. No.
Well, no, it's just, we're talking about the turf versus the grass, and, being a community park, I don't know if I like the feel or the look of what, I mean, I guess I have to see what you're talking about visually is what you're talking about in terms of the turf, but I think that's really going to change the look and feel of one of our largest fields. Until
Just as a
I'm not convinced that that's the right way.
It's definitely a little bit different, and I'm by no means trying to sell you on this information, but I just want you to see that this is an option that's available out there to you.
Can you bring us a sample?
It's not that different from what you see on the playground. The difference is it's made a little. Sure, it's just made a little bit heavy duty. The way that I don't even remember the exact wording. It's what makes the leaf look, the way it's tied in, and the way it's secured at the base. It's just a little bit tougher to hold up to more athletic type play.
Well, and, as part of the master recreation plan, we'd actually talked about putting in other, taking that field and adding a grilling area, and I think there was a gazebo.
Pavilion.
Things.
Yeah, and expanding that. I mean, I don't, I'm looking at this 45.
Dave's bandstand.
That's it.
No, that was
43,000. Maybe we need to then we need to take that $43,000 bid and expand that a little bit and go in and clear out the wooded area.
Is that brush included in that?
Clear that up a little bit.
It's to strip laser level and.
No, I mean the brush along the sides. We're supposed to cut it back 15 feet.
Yeah,
Because lower growth.
And I would caution you, if you cut it back 15 feet, you're going to open it up to where all those houses there are going to be.
That was never that thick back there. It's over the years. It's never been trimmed back.
Yeah, it needs
That's
to
the
be
problem. So it needs to be trimmed back to where it originally was.
I'm not sure how, I'm just going to lay this out here just to see kind of the temperature of the board on this. I will say I personally am not in favor of spending that amount of money on putting an artificial turf out. I think that going and reseeding and fixing that to where it's the standards that we all as residents expect it to be. And I think using it, if we're going to use it as an athletic field, I think we need to make sure it's rotated properly. And that means that the team can't play on it that week, then that they can't play on it that week. Or, and that's something that I think those are just things that as a board we need to take. Our goal is to make sure that our properties are maintained at the highest level, and if it means you can't play on it, you can't play on it.
That's the problem. That's the they're watching it. These people will play on it.
Well, but
I'm talking about when Davy's been having problems with reseeding and everything. They can't even fertilize because there's always people on, and they can't go out there to cut it. They can't fertilize it. They can't do anything with it or even reseed it because as soon as they rip the signs down, they throw them away and they're right on it again.
So I guess, are you in favor of putting artificial turf on?
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I guess I just want to make sure
you're going to need somebody to watch it for that 2-week period or 3-week period or how long it is for it to grow because it's never going to happen.
I think we're going to need, for organized activities, for people to come and to book it through our automation system that we're implementing. And then our park monitors are going to have to go and check.
You're going to need more
Make sure when there's nobody, it's not organized sport.
You're going to have to go into the daytime and into the evening.
Now, when it comes to open play,
it's
not.
It's not regular.
So, but it still gets used. But it needs to rest. You have to rest it.
And that includes for open play. So when we put signs out, field closed, we have to enforce that. And you may get people to call you and not be happy about it.
Same thing that we did when we had to close down Spring Park when we had to redo all that resurfacing. So I think that those are just things that we just need to make sure we're doing.
That's a management.
It is. We have to manage it.
We've been focusing on Spring Park, but I'm sure the East Village field
It's just as loud.
is just as bad a shape.
Well, I
So
think
maybe we need to be looking at 2 fields being laser leveled and cleaned up, and save the difference in money, put more of that towards the civic quarter expenses.
sure.
So, but the only thing is you're going to have to watch it. You're going to,
Well-
with the usage, because I'm going to tell you, some of these people don't even live in this town or playing on these things. You look at the license plates coming in here. They're either out of state or they're from Orange County. And some of these clowns that come out here on Saturday morning are big guys. They're not kids playing. Right here, right on the main road here. You're talking about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I've seen these people here. Every morning I come down that road and they're sitting out there playing on it. And they don't belong here. These guys are semi-pro soccer players.
Well, we're facing a dilemma. We have a shortage of fields, and we're going to take these other fields out of service for a good while. And I don't see the new fields in the civic quarter coming along quickly enough to release at the same time all these other fields. I mean, it's not a good situation for us right now.
Debbie, I know you had a question in regards to turf.
It's just a question of the bids. It's probably real simple, but one of the bids for the artificial turf was for 40,000 square feet, and one of the bids to correct the grass or fix the grass was from Lake Gem for 38,000 square feet, and then Davies was for 51,000 square feet. I was just trying to figure out, is Davies for
That's the thing, which would probably add about 10 feet all the way around.
debris removal disposal?
Yeah, exactly. That's because
Do we have to just eliminate the whole conversation about the artificial turf or not? I guess we just.
It doesn't sound like there's-
I'm not in favor of that.
Is anybody?
So
I'm just.
I'll be the voice of painting the buck again. My point that I don't want to put the entire field as artificial turf because it changes the use of the field, in my opinion. And it's not what we had originally intended. The other thing, to PJ's point, to other points, I know Lee had this concern as well. It's not a regulation-sized field, so we're putting a lot of money into something that we still can't really have a legal game on.
Even over East Park.
So what I would want to pursue is if we do go with, which I would be in support of doing a natural is that we can't make a data-driven decision today about it because we haven't been maintaining the field appropriately. So we can't make a decision if, maybe if we spend 20 grand a year to maintain the field properly, it's going to look great. We're not going to be having this conversation in a year. I think the catch is that if we see that they are using it for practice, and I know, Steve, we had talked about this in regards to certain areas where certain sports have concentrated activity in different areas.
Right.
Do you put synthetic turf in those high-use areas, blended with natural turf?
I think it makes a lot of sense when you're looking at a regulation-sized field to do a gold mouth area or a high-intensity usage area. I don't know if that field, if there's enough space to make that investment. I would look
Makes
at that
sense.
probably
Yeah.
along the civic
I
quarter.
would say I would almost, I'm not opposed to artificial turf for the right circumstance. I don't think that our community fields are the places where we need to do that.
Sure.
No, we've talked about it with the civic corridor, which would eliminate irrigation out there, which would probably save us a ton of money, especially with the water lines and everything else out there. And that's where they were going to go, on those 3 fields.
I think it's a good exercise. We looked at it on that square footage just because it was smaller. It was a good case study for us to take a look at. We wanted to bring the information back to you so you as the board had the same information to make that decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to give respect to PJ, I'll look at the studies. And then the
And once you put a base down for a synthetic turf, when the life of the turf runs out, it's the carpet that gets replaced, then the base stays.
and we don't have a
So it's
cost for
a
that.
one-time fee.
We don't, I know that was your other question with how much does it cost to replace it? Replace that.
My research also showed that there was a not in professional fields that were used like once a week or whatever, but fields that were used up to 3,000 hours a year, there was greater deterioration within the warranty period, and that bid specifically does not include labor after 2 years. That you're not taking, that wasn't on the comparison, so I think that affects the comparison between natural and synthetic.
Sure, I think there's some minor labor involved. I don't want to make it sound like there's no labor with synthetic turf. You do have to go out and brush and maybe add more fill and things like that. Just not as intensive a labor as you would with a natural turf. Because that's going to involve your pesticides, your herbicides, your watering. You have to resod probably twice a year in certain areas to get the worn. It's typically the root base in the goal mouth. If it gets worn out, you have to resod those areas. So those are all considerations you make when you put in a Bermuda or a Celebration Bermuda turf out there. I didn't just make that up.
Does anyone have any more questions in regards or comments in regards to the turf renovation for South Village Spring Park Field? Anyone from the audience? Go for it, PJ.
Because y'all don't have anything else to do.
No.
On the 30th of September, there will be a webinar presented by the Synthetic Turf Trade Association. I realize they're prejudiced towards that particular aspect of fields, but if I mention it in case anyone is interested in gathering more information about that particular topic for future use, perhaps in the civic corridor.
Those are the 30th meeting?
The 30th of September.
Hey, Steve, you still haven't heard from the golf course?
I actually did hear from John. He said that he has no response yet. He's waiting to get back.
Is there an easement that we can bypass them totally?
No. I think we looked at that.
We did.
There's no easement that allows us to put a road through?
No, because it's too close to 417,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, DOT.
And I think we hit another easement that we can't build on top of. It's not a gas line.
Right.
It's something else.
So basically, the golf course says no road going through there. There's no road going through to the other side. We're landlocked.
The way I understood it was if the CDD builds the road,
Yes.
they assess the golf course.
So CDD can
So
build
they
it
can
regardless
force- they can force a road through that
regardless of
property.
whether the golf course wants it or not, or gives
They
permission?
built the road to their building, and CROA was assessed.
But we
Yeah,
want
but you're talking
to.
about,
We actually want one.
That's based on my conversations, yes. If they built the road to the end, then golf course is assessed.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order?
Board comments?
Yep.
I do, but is there anything else first? I just want to say that in regards to about the sand, I've lived in the community for 18 years, which does not give me any more right, whether you've lived here and just moved in, or you've been here a long time, but I did raise 4 children who did play in the sand. Out of respect for my fellow board members, I would like to say that they are all volunteers. We're all volunteers. If I ran across something in the community that was an issue, I picked it up. I threw it in the trash. We have been brought a packet that shows feces in the sand areas, and they also brought sample feces in case we didn't know what cat feces looked like, which I believe you all do. Also in these photographs are things like ants, mold, longworms, plastic bags, Band-Aids, a wasp nest. These are all things we've seen in our community. These are all things we have grown up with children. And I just want to say out of respect, the board went so far as to try to cover the sand area to keep the